Lisa. I have some more beach photos, but this is coming from a very different perspective. These are photos that were taken 3 weeks after Hurricane Matthew came through Hilton Head. It didn't make a direct well, I don't know if it made a direct landfall. I don't think that it did, but it came very, very close to the island, and this was really something that I was following closely because we go down there every year, at least once a year, and we dream about the opportunity to spend more time down there, whether full-time or part-time. It's sort of a fantasy kind of thing, you know, that would be a wonderful opportunity for us. And if we ever had that opportunity, I really wanted to know what it's like to be down there for a hurricane. I hope that will never happen again, but on the coast of South Carolina, it's always a possibility. So I followed the news really closely that I could find, and the national news had a lot to cover because Matthew came up all the way up the East Coast, did a lot of damage in North Carolina as well. So it was difficult to get a lot of information unless you looked at social media and at the local news stories down there. So I gathered a lot of information that way, and then we went down and a few weeks afterwards, and I was amazed. I think they just did an awesome job of getting things back up and going for the residents and the visitors, and all the restaurants we wanted to go to were open, and it was, you know, they just did a fantastic job. But I do have some photos that I took of the process and of the destruction and things that we saw, and areas where there really wasn't a big deal, and areas where there really, really was a big deal about what had occurred. So I wanted to capture that story from my perspective for my album. I found that over the years, our albums are not just capturing memories, they're also kind of an almanac. So you can go back and use them as reference for when did this thing happen, or when did that happen, or what was this like. And while I hope this never happens again, if there's another hurricane coming, and if we're planning to go down, or if we should own property down there or something at some point in the future, I'd like to know what it was like. How many days was it before they let people back on the island, the water situation, and just a lot of different things. And so I want to have that information. And that brings me to my sketch. I'm doing a 2-pager for this. I have a lot of photos that I have printed here as small photos, but I've laid the sketch out as 4 by 6s. So you could do whatever organization of photos that you wanted and have your photos in this space. This area over here where it says journaling and it has this weird orangey block behind it is actually going to be a folded little book of where I'm going to print out some of the things I found online that will be my reference for the future, and it was part of the story. So I'm going to put some of that in this little book here. I apologize for the crazy colors that my sketches are printing right now. I've tried to fix this, but my printer is not recognizing the cyan colored ink that it has in there. Brand new ink cartridge is just not picking it up. The printer is 10 years old. It cost me all of $75 when I bought it. So it has really done its job wonderfully over the years, but it might be that I'm going to have to replace the printer. I don't know. But for the time being, we got the structure of things anyway, even if the colors are a little strange. On this layout, since I've done a couple of layouts already for this trip and I've done some stenciling, I thought I would continue with that and have some consistency amongst the layouts, even though they're telling different stories. So I have some white basil textured background paper for these instead of smooth paper, and I'm going to put some kind of a stencil here in the middle and mist over that or add some color in some way, and then we're also going to use a little bit of pattern paper and maybe some embellishment in a couple of places here to go with this. But we've got a lot of photos and we have a lot of story to tell about the experience of the hurricane, because we've been going down there since 1991, as I say, at least once a year, and often more than that. We got to go twice this past year, and I don't ever remember a hurricane coming this close to the island. I remember some threats and some worries that things were coming, but never really doing any damage during the time that we've been there, and they've had some before that. So this was the first opportunity we had to experience that. Hopefully, again, none of us will ever do that, have to have that experience again, but it's good to sort of know how prepared they were and how well it all came off, and just to have some idea of what goes on in those situations. So I think at this point I want to add some color to the layout. I'm seeing a lot of green here. The real story with the hurricane from my perspective for the island was the trees. What makes the island really special to us is all the trees. It's just and they really take a lot of care to preserve their trees on the island. And so when you step off the beach, you're under the shade, and you bike along, you have a lot of shade, and it's not like a lot of coastal communities because of the trees. So a lot of trees were lost during the storm. And that's a big part of the story here. So my embellishment here of the little palm tree is probably going to be something to do with the trees. And so I think we'll focus on a background of some greens and browns and all, because that's really what we're telling here. There's a little bit about the beach, but this is not a big beach story. This is more a story about how the rest of the island was affected. So let's pick some colors that go with that. Looking for some pattern paper and some mist and a stencil.
So I'm going to pick my pattern paper first, and then I'll decide on my mist colors. I really like the idea of doing some wood grain since my emphasis here is trees. And I like that paper with a little bit of vine, but there's also another green paper that's a possibility. But I have an idea of the colors that I need, and I have pulled a few mists that I thought might work. I'm going ahead and putting a little washi tape on the back of the 2-pager to hold it together, since I'm going to be putting a stencil over both pages. And I don't want it to shift. We're going to start with some gray mist. Actually, this is Tencel from Heidi Swap. Well, actually, no, I started with the dark blue first, the navy color, and then we'll do the Tencel later on. And I'm doing some blue greens and just a touch of regular bright green with this. So I'm looking for that sort of stormy look. And that's dried nicely. And I did decide on the vine paper, some on each side of the page to kind of tie things together. I've cut my photos apart. Again, you could use regular 4x6s for this, but I have some small photos that I want to do a kind of a collage. So we ended up, I think, with 9 photos on the page. Because they don't need to be super big. You know, I can take the time to look at these in detail if I go back and look at this page. Now this side, I've got to print out some stuff to go underneath. I'm looking for some embellishment. So first, I thought some clouds and things would look good. We weren't there, of course, for the rain. In fact, I don't think it rained a drop the entire week that we were there. But we did, you know, that's the whole story about this, is the rain. And it's really about the trees. And my little sketch shows a palm tree, but that's not really the type of trees that they have very many of. They have more, I don't know what kind of trees they are. They don't seem to lose their leaves, but they're more traditional kinds of trees and not so tropical looking, I should say. So I pulled out some Maya Road trees. Those are chipboard, and then the rest of these are canvas covered embellishments. The canvas ones are easy to color with markers, so I've got some little raindrops. And I decided to use a butterfly to signify life and how things go forward even after the hurricane. And I put that in yellow, and I was thinking at the time about adding some more colors and stuff to it, but I just ended up leaving it yellow. Then the clouds, I did some gray markers and some blue markers to sort of give it a little bit of dimension. And I painted the trees, and apparently I didn't record that. I don't know what happened to it, but I guess I just didn't record painting the trees green and the trunks brown, but that's what I did with those chipboard trees. And then what I'm doing for my little booklet, I've taken a piece of designer paper. This is from an old collection by Crate Paper. It's a fall collection. I don't remember the name of it. But it had this paper that looked like it was watercolored. And so I'm taking a strip of that and using it to cover what I have printed out from online, things that reference the hurricane. And then I'm just attaching those pieces in with a little bit of glue. I could have stapled them together to make a little booklet, but I only had a couple of sheets. So but I still got quite a bit of information in there. And the last sheet, I only ended up with 1 column printed. So I'm just going to glue it directly, or adhere it directly to the background of my layout, and then it'll get covered with the little booklet. Now on top, I'll have my own journaling. And I'm going to round the corners of this so you can kind of tell with that then fairly easily that it's something that needs to be opened. It could have a tab for opening, but I didn't feel it was necessary on this page. For the titling, I used some silhouette tricks, and I have a class called Silhouette Titles. If you, especially here around the holidays, if you got a silhouette for Christmas, you may want to check out that class. We do some real simple things like what I've done here to create Hurricane and Matthew in that class, and we do more complicated things as well. Really fun stuff that you can do with your silhouette. You don't have to buy lots of images, and you make it really customized for your pages, for whatever you wanted to say. And I wanted to do those words, the Hurricane and Matthew, and I didn't want to have to glue tons of tiny little letters on, and I don't. I've got 2 pieces there that I have to handle. So, and putting the hurricane in the cloud adds an embellishment as part of the title. Now I will need to put something behind the cloud so that hurricane shows up. I have some dark gray cardstock. This is basic gray color from Stampin' Up. I could have put a pattern paper in there as well. That would have been pretty. I was doing this late at night, and we've had kind of a hectic holiday season, a family member in the hospital and whatnot, so this page has been hanging around my work table for days. So I was just kind of wanting to get it done, and I did. The cardstock looks fine with it. I did add a little bit of Distress ink to the cloud to give it a little extra color. And then Matthew is really easy to glue on there. And I'll glue on my clouds and my little raindrops. Now I looked at putting the middles of the A's and the R's in, and in this case they were very tiny, and I just didn't think it was worth doing. You can see it well enough without that.
Alright, so I've got our little raindrops glued on here. I can keep from bumping them. And our clouds, and then you fold this back and you have lots of information that I just captured. So I'd have sort of an almanac of kind of what happened and kind of a reference point for maybe for future events, hopefully not having any future events, but just something that records what happened and might be useful to me in the future, and our thoughts about the island and how quickly they recovered from this particular hurricane. And then I have lots of small photos. The sketch showed 3 4x6 photos, but I've chosen to break this down into several small photos. And one more strip of pattern paper over here. Got a cool title using the silhouette, and I have the silhouette titles class if you're interested in more information on doing the titles. Our stenciled background started this off, and then it kind of goes with the last 2 pages I've done about this beach trip, which also have stenciled backgrounds just in somewhat different colors. So, and I used a butterfly to signify life and how things are moving forward after this natural disaster has passed. So thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this interactive page with lots of different elements, with stenciling and die cutting and painting and just lots of cool things on it. I'm really enjoying the page. I think this is going to be a favorite in my scrapbook. So thank you so much. It's coming upon the new year, and I hope that you have a very happy new year. And I've got to look back at my resolutions and see what exactly I resolved to do this year. I know some of them by heart, which means that the others that I don't remember probably didn't happen. So I'm going to have to take a look at those for 2017. Thank you again.